Hello. On behalf of the Bay Area Urban Debate League and the National Association for Urban Debate Leagues, I want to thank you for volunteering to help us with the Financial Literacy Debate Series, a first here in the Bay Area, and for taking the time to watch this short video so that you feel more prepared and confident as you help our students through the series. We know that your help with this series is going to be greatly appreciated and impactful. We've begun this series because we recognize that financial literacy is a significant issue in the United States. Too many students are going through high school, preparing for college and their career without even the most basic understanding of how money works in the world, and that becomes a significant detriment to their going forward in getting into a college and in finding appropriate careers and savings for their lifelong goals. Through years of experience, we also know that debate builds skills. It builds skills in deep and lasting ways because of the intensity with which the students are involved with the topic as they go through the competitive series. By bringing those debate skills, processes, and motivations to financial literacy, we believe that the students entering this series will leave it with significantly greater understanding of how money works in the world and the curiosity to go even further with that. Now, judging debates is for everyone, and that's something that I wanted to highlight right here from the beginning. You're coming to this with an enormous amount of experience, just having gone through high school, college, and entering your career. It is up to the students to prove their points, to present their ideas, to convince you of the contentions that they are making. It is simply up to you to listen carefully and judge their ability to do that, and most importantly, give them feedback in that overall process. So what will your job be in those rounds? Well, it's pretty straightforward. First, simply listen carefully. You'll set up in a room with 4 students, 2 students per team who will be debating against one another. The key thing is to listen carefully to understand everything that they're trying to convey to you. While you're doing that, you need to do one small technical issue. You need to monitor speech time, and we'll go into those speech times in just a moment, because it is up to the judge to make sure that they stay within their speaking limits. Most importantly, in this entire series, after listening carefully to what the students present to you, is your job of providing feedback to them. All of these debaters have worked hard to prepare this. They will make mistakes. They will broach contentions that maybe you don't agree with. It's not for you to give them all of the answers. It's for you to give them productive feedback. First, beginning with some positive notes of what they've done well as they've gone forward through the debate. But then it's also incredibly important for you to provide them actionable, critical feedback so that they can improve what they're doing, either in their understanding of the financial concepts or in the way that they presented them and tried to persuade you during the debate round. Once all of that is done, you simply complete the ballot, which gets turned in, and all of your notes on that ballot are recorded into our system and added to the overall record of the debates as the students continue to compete throughout the day. And this is what the students will be debating. In debate, there's always a resolution. It is a basic statement of an argument. The affirmative team's job in the debate is to bring forward contentions and arguments that support that basic statement. It is the negative team's job in this particular type of debate to present the opposite side of that argument. You'll see what I mean in just a minute. The resolution for this fall's financial literacy debate series is, when forced with a choice, it's a better financial decision to attend a community college for the first 2 years of college rather than taking on additional loan debt to attend a 4-year college for those first 2 years. So the students break down this resolution. On the affirmative side, what they know is that they must bring forward contentions, arguments, and evidence that supports the statement that if I have to take loans, if I cannot afford college, but I want to attend college in order to have a better career, it is a better decision for me to start at a community college, to start at a 2-year college, and then move on to a 4-year college to finish my degree. The negative team must argue the opposite. They must argue that it's a better financial decision to begin at a 4-year college, even though that means taking on additional loan debt. Now that we've talked about what they'll be debating, let's talk about how they'll be debating. In the room with you will be 2 teams. Each team consists of 2 speakers. The first affirmative, second affirmative speaker, the first negative and second negative speaker. First, the affirmative stands and has 6 minutes. This is the first affirmative speaker stands, has 6 minutes to present their case concerning the resolution. Remember that the affirmative team is arguing that it is a better financial decision to keep their loan debt low and begin their college career at a 2-year or community college. After that 6 minutes is up, the second negative speaker stands and has 3 minutes to cross-examine the first affirmative speaker. During that time, they should be asking clarifying questions about the case that was presented, and they should be asking questions that help reveal weaknesses within the case that the negative team can exploit. After that is complete, the first negative speaker stands. First negative speaker must present the negative case, and the negative case in this resolution is that it's a better financial decision to take on the additional student loan debt in order to start at a 4-year college career. After that, the second affirmative speaker stands and questions that speaker, again, asking for clarity and trying to reveal through questioning weaknesses and possible gaps in the negative case. Once that's completed, the negative rebuttal begins. That's the second negative speaker, and they are to rebut or answer to or argue against the affirmative case. It is 5 minutes to directly attack the contentions made in the affirmative case. Then the second affirmative speaker stands and presents their rebuttal. In their rebuttal, they're not only attacking the contentions that were presented within the negative case, they also are going to answer to items that were brought up in the negative rebuttal. Once that 5 minutes is up, the first negative speaker stands again. They have 4 minutes to present a closing statement. In that closing statement, it is their job to concisely wrap up all the key arguments that have occurred during the debate round and to make the case to you, the judge, in a persuasive manner that the negative team should win, that it is in fact a better financial decision to go ahead and take on additional student loan debt in order to have the advantage of beginning at a 4-year college. And then the final speaker of the debate is the first affirmative speaker, who has their closing statement. 4 minutes again to wrap up the entire debate, to make sure that they reference all the key arguments within the debate and frame it in such a way that they convince you that it is in fact better in financial terms to begin at a community college and take on less student loan debt. Now, I've gone through the speech order and cross-examination. You need to be aware that each team has 4 minutes of prep time. That's discretionary time they can use at any point during the round between the speeches in order to prepare for the next. The affirmative case and the negative case are pre-prepared, so there'll be no prep time necessary. They'll probably be using portions of their debate time as they prepare their rebuttal and their closing statements, because those have to be done in the moment. They have 4 minutes for each team in total. That means they might spend 2 minutes for preparing for their rebuttal and 2 minutes for their closing, and it's up to the judge to keep track of those times. The debaters have all been given basic guidelines to help them construct their cases, and so those should help you follow what's going on in the case themselves. Each of the cases should begin with some sort of introduction of the speaker, of their school, and what stance they're taking in regards to the resolution, their basic argument. The bulk of that first speech time for each of the teams, their presentation of the case, is their contentions. So they'll each present 2 to 3 probably contentions that support their stance in the resolution. And within that contention, which is a large argument, there should be smaller arguments that are logically connected and references to research. They don't have to read full pieces of research. What they have to do is summarize it or present what the crux of those research pieces tell us about those financial decisions, and then connect it to their contentions. And then, of course, they must conclude. They have to wrap it up. So as a basic circular pattern there, as they come to the end of all their contentions, they need to wrap them back around to their introduction and their stance on the resolution itself. Now, of course, it's your job, as we mentioned before, to listen carefully to what the 4 debaters are bringing forward in their contentions, in their cross-examination, in their rebuttals, and in their closing arguments. And of course, you're going to want to keep track of those. Now, how you do that is entirely up to you, but you're going to be taking notes in some form. What you have in the screen before you is a representation of what debaters typically do. They flow an argument with their notes. You'll notice that there are 6 columns, each representing one of the distinct speeches that's given. The first 2 being the actual cases, the middle 2 being the rebuttal speeches, and the last 2 being the closing speeches. At the bottom, I also have a couple of boxes for cross-examination to make notes there about what I saw that was really impressive or might need some work. The benefit of doing this is you can flow them across and follow individual arguments across columns, though this is not necessarily the way you might do it. You might do them as a simple outline going down on a number of sheets of paper. That's your choice. You're not going to be taking deep, extensive notes. You're going to be taking quick notes to remind you of what was said during those rounds. But it is important that you take those notes so that you can refer back and make sure you didn't forget something that was significant during the round. Now it's appropriate to talk about how you as the judge are going to decide the outcome of the debate round. Before you enter the debate round, you'll be given a ballot. The ballot will tell you what students in schools will be competing, and the ballot contains 3 primary areas that you need to be aware of. When you first walk into the round, if it isn't filled out already, make sure that you fill out both your name, the round number that you're in, and then the school and names of the speakers of each team. That's part of your preparation for the actual round. During the round, you may put notes on the other areas that have the rubrics for judging each of the 4 speakers and feedback notes for each of the students competing. They will see those notes, but more importantly is the feedback that you're giving them orally at the end of the round. But it is good to put notes on there. So you may be filling that out either during or after the round while you're giving feedback. Once you've given oral feedback to all 4 of the students competing in the round, you should go ahead and tally up the numbers in each of the speakers' categories and then write down the winning team and sign the ballot, and then take that ballot to the tab table and turn it in. We need to talk a little bit more deeply about those particular areas that are shaded on the ballot where you give each speaker scores. What you'll notice right away is that each speaker has 4 areas on which they'll be given scores. Each of them will be judged on their knowledge of financial concepts. So what they display during the debate round, both during their speeches and during cross-examination time, about how well they've integrated understanding of financial concepts that are relevant to what they're debating. That is our primary interest here. So they can earn up to 20 points for their achievement during the rounds in that area. Then each debater is also judged upon their use of evidence and logic. Now that's broadly speaking, what we're talking about is how well they connect different points of arguments and contentions during the round, and how well they connect their summaries of evidence that they've found to support those arguments. And it should be structured in the way that they do that. And then of course, each speaker is judged on their speaking style and persuasiveness. So it's their clarity, their intonation and inflection, and how well they shape the way that they're speaking to you, the judge, to persuade you. Finally, each of them in the fourth area are judged on separate things. So the first speaker of each team is judged on their execution of the closing summary speech. So that's that final speech that each team has to wrap up what's occurred in the debate round and make the final appeal to you, the judge. The second speaker of each team is judged upon how well they managed the cross-examination. Remember, the second speaker is the one who stands right after the case is presented from the other team and tries to reveal possible flaws and openings within the other case that they can exploit. And so you're judging them on how well they manage the cross-examination. You'll have noticed that each of those discrete areas has a range, either 1 to 10 or 1 to 20, 1 being the lowest score, 10 or 20 being the highest. It is important that you use that full range. So think of the middle as basically meeting expectations, whereas the upper end being vastly exceeding expectations and the lower end being really not following through with any of the prerequisites of a good quality debate. So for example, if you're talking about the section where you're judging each of the 4 debaters on their use of financial terms and how well they've integrated them into their debate, you're looking for things like, did they use all those terms correctly, or are they misidentifying them? So an average score would be, yes, basically they use all the terms correctly, though they didn't make a whole lot of connections between them, and they didn't extend it very far into sort of the future financial health of that individual. Whereas on the upper end, you might have a student that uses all of the terms absolutely correctly, connects them to one another. So connects things like lower loan debt, the ability to avoid capitalization, all leading to greater personal wealth, because with their earning potential and the lower loan debt, that gives them more discretionary income, and how that might affect them in the future. That's very sophisticated, and that would deserve a very high score. Whereas in the lower end, you might have a debater who's still struggling with these terms. Because remember, they're new to these students. So maybe they're still struggling with them, and so they misused some terms, they weren't making any connections. You feel like they're really struggling overall just to understand what's happening there. So let's back up a little bit, because we went deeply into the resolution and what the debate round is going to look like and what you're going to do during the debate rounds. But what's your full time going to look like there? What we're asking is that once you signed up for specific time slots on the day that you'll be judging, please come early. Take the time, even if it's just 5 minutes, to come early, meet the BAUDL staff that'll be working there, possibly meet some of the students at that point. And then you'll receive your ballot. And on the ballot, you'll have your room assignment. You can get any questions answered at that point in time to make sure you're fully ready. If you've gone through this series and you want some more questions answered, just to make sure that you feel like you're doing a really competent job, come a little bit earlier, and any of us on the staff will be really happy to help you out to make sure that when you go in, you feel like you're really helping the students out in the overall process. But once you get that room assignment, you're going to go to your room, you're going to lay out all of your tools, your pens, your papers, your guide, make sure that you're ready to go. And you'll greet the debaters as they come in. Remember, like I said, you'll be putting on their names and schools on your ballot as you greet them. And then you'll monitor the debate. With the discretionary prep time, the debate time total is 44 minutes. It actually goes pretty quickly. You'll be monitoring those speech times and the cross-examination time, as well as the discretionary prep time that each of the teams has, and then you'll close the debate round, at which time you'll take about 10, perhaps 15 minutes to make sure that you can give each debater individual feedback, beginning with positives and going to actionable suggestions that they can do for their next round, either in how they understand the financial concepts or how they're presenting their arguments. And then you leave the room, you turn in your ballot after signing off who's won by simply adding up all of the scores. And then you might go to judge the next debate round. Or if not, if that's the final debate round that you'll be judging that day, I highly encourage you to stick around a little bit, chat with some of the BAUDL staff, and particularly as students, if you're lucky enough to be ending that round, when they have a break or when they have lunch, we would love for you to take the time to get to know them a bit. And it's a great opportunity for them to speak to individuals that are in the professional community. It's a mini mentoring opportunity from our perspective. Now, I mentioned some of these as I was going through the course of the video, but I want to make sure that I'm explicit here. So what will you need for the day? It's pretty minimal. You're going to need a pen and paper. We'll, of course, have extra, but you're going to need something to write your notes down as you're actively listening to what the students are presenting during their rounds. So a pen and paper, whatever your preferences are for those, and then you'll need a stopwatch, because remember, you'll be monitoring the speech times and the discretionary prep time. Now, all smartphones come with some form of stopwatch basically built in the app. What I suggest beforehand is you just make sure that you familiarize yourself with that app on your phone so that it's easier going in. We can help you out if there's something that comes up that you feel like you don't have that. We'll make sure that you're prepared when you arrive. Also, bring the copy of Guide for Judges that I sent out and is available to you electronically. It has all of the references that I've put onto this video. It has the speech times, it has a sample ballot, and suggestions for what you're doing during the round. And it's worthwhile having it there as a reference during the debate round. And then, of course, the ballot, which will be given right before your round with your assignment and these teams that you'll be judging. And lastly, and I referenced this before, time. I hope that you're able to spend a little bit of extra time on either end of the rounds that you'll be judging. I recognize that many of you will be having to move in and out quite quickly because you're being generous with short periods of time that you have during the day, and we're hugely appreciative of that. But if you do have the opportunity, staying a little bit of extra time will be a huge benefit for our students. I hope this video has been helpful. I hope you feel like you have a good, concrete understanding of what you'll be doing as you volunteer during our financial literacy debate series. We're really looking forward to meeting you in person. If in the meantime you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me either by phone or by email. I'm happy to go over any specific points that you'll be doing during the round. And then simply finally, thank you. Again, this is going to be a big benefit for our students, and we strongly believe that you'll thoroughly enjoy the experience over the next couple of days. Thank you again.